Y'all, not gonna lie, I've been sleeping with the lights on after this movie. The corner scene freaked me out so much. Like, what if I wake up to Nikki just standing in the corner in my room like that? Because what the fuck is... I feel like you don't like me as much as I do. Like, the feeling's not mutual. Anyways, hello and welcome back to whatever this channel is. I'm in the midst of finding my niche. It's a very vulnerable time for me at the moment. I'm gonna go wipe this off. So if you haven't heard, because I haven't, Obsession has been taking the horror flicks by storm. And I only watched it on the recommendation of my friend and the fact that he'll be paying for my movie ticket to watch it with him. But would he really be paying? He can claim that shit on tax. Must be nice working in studios. Anyways, the premise goes, man likes woman who is childhood friend, alongside the typical be careful what you wish for. And I was curious as to how this movie would play out because my expectations and impressions were low to non-existent. Again, it's because I wasn't planning on seeing this movie. But I'm glad the movie was like, I bet. And now look at me, so... With Obsession, just the making and the production of the film already feels hopeful. Not the actual plot of the movie though. That shit's bleak. But with the production itself, just from a quick Google search, it was made on the budget of $750,000. So whatever, it's like less than $1 million and shot in less than a month. And honestly, that's such an amazing feat, especially with it being an indie film. And that it was directed and written by Curry Barker. I don't know who he is, though from what I've heard, he has made some indie films on YouTube. And also that he's 26, and let me just say, everyone has their own timelines, okay? But with the protagonist being nicknamed Bear, and with how the movie is shot, I'm like, yeah, that's something of someone from Gen Z would do. Yeah, though the irony of choosing either a man or a bear to then have a man named Bear in this context is disgustingly genius. And now to do the opposite, where we name a bear man. Anyhow, we should get to our protagonist later because I first want to yap about the movie in general first. So I didn't know that this movie had garnered a lot of traction behind it. Like, my friend checked the seatings online and bro, it was red. Like, I actually had to sit next to a stranger and someone was like to them, like, hey, you're in my seat. And I'm like, whoa, that's crazy. I thought that shit only happened in the movies. Yet I haven't seen it this packed since the Barbie movie, which I also did a video on. Shameless plug, I know. I'm not sure if I still stand on what I said, but with these two movies, just to see how they navigate conventional gender, the social dynamics, and the conversation including attraction, and how the public reacts to it, is so revealing. Dude, we live in a society. And it doesn't help that the cast is so attractive too, which does play a major role that the halo effect became halo permanence. Oh, and that it's refreshing to see new faces and new names on the rise. In terms of the actual movie, I personally don't prefer horror, but I know people will say that it makes them feel alive. And yeah, after watching this specific movie, I do too. And unfortunately, it is that deep, and we'll get to that later. Right now, the movie has got me feeling in all sorts. I definitely do love it when a dark movie has some humor or light-hearted moments, just to shift the tension and tone a little bit. And I know that could be a critique for some people, including myself at times, but fellas, if a happy-go-lucky show can have dark elements too, then surely vice versa can be applied, especially in the times where we need it the most. Though in saying that, the humor was unintentional and quite unsettling if you think about it. I'm not laughing at her, I'm not laughing with her, I'm laughing at what the moment encapsulates. Or I don't know how to react. Like, I really wanted to walk out of the theater when she stood there cheesing for a good 10 seconds. That was almost the last straw after she was standing in the corner like that. I still can't with the vase. And let me just say, that car scene was predictable. It still scared the Jiminy Crickets out of me. Oh my god, is that the Jonas Brothers? I still haven't moved past that clip from Love on the Spectrum. Logan, you complete icon. So yeah, the movie was actually scary. It's not that I don't get scared, but like it takes something for me to actually audibly emote and squirm. I actually screamed in cinema and I was gripping onto my friend. Again, I think it's the switch in tone for me, because when it's constant, right, you're always expecting it, but since this one is edging and it fluctuates, and that it gives you more variables to calculate, where it gives you that little light of hope and relief, or to be like, no, absolutely not. Now, moving on to Bear and Nikki. Just give Indy her goddamn Grammy. With Nikki, I actually did relate to her in the sense of her being creative and writing her own book. And I didn't even realize, because at the bar, when it first gets brought up, the camera focuses on Bear, and that does happen quite a lot in the movie, duh. But in drowning out the other characters, especially Nikki, and giving a really fucked up scenario, I didn't even pick up on the red flags because I was feeling sorry for the man. And that's the thing, I could relate to Nikki and I could empathize, I did empathize with Bear, but only for a brief moment. However, in reality, I should be sympathizing with his situation and not for the type of person that he is. And I think it's important to know the difference between those terms, because within the movie, there's like this line about love and romance, and I overlooked it because I was trying to keep up with the movie, and at face value, they do seem as similar. Yet, in the synopsis, Bear is portrayed or described with romance. Like, yes, he was practicing on the waitress, and those feelings were sweet and endearing, but they were mainly his feelings about how Nikki made him feel. And honestly, that is completely valid, but there was hardly anything said about her to make me believe that there was something beyond that attraction, especially since they've known each other since childhood. Romance also has a fantasy aspect to it because it is idealized. And not gonna lie, you guys, I have stopped maladaptive daydreaming about quote-unquote love, because when I got into an actual relationship, my avoidance tendencies were triggered, and I'm like, damn, this shit really ain't like the movies. And I was rooting for Bear initially. Like, I kept on giving him the benefit of the doubt. But, as a TikTok once said, stop giving the benefit of the doubt to the man and start doubting the benefit of the man. And that also includes a man to another man, because Ian, what the hell? So I sort of missed out on the first few minutes of the movie where I didn't get to see Bear practice on the waitress. I came in a bit after that where Ian mentions drinks at the bar and him telling Bear to go for it. And so I thought Ian was supportive and stuff like that. And to an extent, he is. But damn, he really just affirmed Bear's thoughts about it being cringe. And then he comes up while Bear and Nikki are talking, ordering drinks at the bar. I forgot if Bear even mentions to Ian that Sandy died. And rather, Bear is getting emotional sanction from women instead of his supposedly best friend as well. Oh, and how Ian wished for $1 billion, which is a bit iconic in hindsight in a neutral sense. I was screaming at him to help a friend out. But seeing what Bear did and how he got there, no. No. Don't do that! I thought we were in this context. Ian isn't obligated to, or he shouldn't be, though I don't think his character was conscious of that. Rather, again, he is the type to emotionally suppress his feelings and emotions that make him feel vulnerable or be perceived as weak. Hence, that would seep into his friendships and where he made that wish and Bear's request just goes out the window. Which is also funny because we can see the living standards between Ian and Bear, where Ian is living lavishly while Bear is in his little humble abode. But that's besides the point. Surely Ian did like Nikki just as how Nikki liked Bear, and how Sarah likes Bear, and how incestuous this friend group or work group is. I know that Nikki did state that she liked Bear as a brother, but honestly I did believe that Nikki did like him, just not of conviction. Okay, hopefully this color looks consistent, or else you'll know that I filmed on 2 separate days. Okay, fine, I'll come clean. I filmed on 2 separate days. On 2 separate occasions. So yeah. Anyways, let's get to our main protagonist, Bear. Personally, I didn't consider him a villain at first because it didn't cross my mind, but that is until public opinion said Bear's a villain, and I instantly agreed. There's a woe is me type beat vibe to Bear, and in a sense that seeps into how he views love, or infatuation disguised as romance in this case. And with being a hopeless romantic, he doesn't even have a opinion on Nikki or Sarah as people, but as a fantasy. Like, what do you mean he was willing to risk it all in the car for his own feelings towards a girl who gave him the slightest bit of attention, safety, and comfort, and who was already doing that before? So even if he wasn't a villain at first, he became one or evolved into one. There was a line that Bear said in the movie, being, "What's so bad about being with me?" And I went to pause because, what? I wasn't angry at that line as much as I should have been. And again, that line almost got me because he was in a toxic and abusive relationship that I was hoping for him to get out of. Though it was wishful thinking on my end, because how exactly can you make a comeback from that? And especially after that dinner scene, I didn't think he deserves it. Sorry, he doesn't deserve it. Yet, I forgot he one-wish willowed himself into this. And Nikki's the one who needs to get out. But that's entirely on him, even though it wasn't technically a relationship. With Bear, he's a prime example of the standard person who doesn't really know what to do with themselves most times. And yeah, hashtag relatable, I guess. While being portrayed as an introverted, nice, sweet, and like a little awkward guy. He's a vessel or husk of a man that has a very skewed idea on how love is supposed to work. There's no internal presence that challenges him outside of his own pity, but when that wish does, his lack of self, or where he falls short, gets pushed out of dormancy. His character works so well because Bear doesn't have a sense of one, including his identity. His image is that he's unassuming, palatable, and subtle enough that he's a blank enough slate for the audience. He's no underdog from these traits just because he doesn't presume the archetype of a raging incel or misogynist, but a potential one hidden in plain sight or form. For him, he's too passive, he's too self-centered, that there's no character behind those eyes to even try and take accountability. I think Sandy being a cat is a whole meaning in itself, but I'm just gonna like quickly breeze past that. As for Nikki, I can't really say much other than I love her, and we can laugh about the whole psychotic girlfriend trope all we want. But for her, free my girl. I feel so seen with her crash outs, as that queen should. With how the wish actually works, I do enjoy the one where Nikki states that she loves him in every reality, and so the wish forces that version of her into their reality. I forgot whose TikTok I watched for that, and I hope I could find her again. And also another theory about the wish that I like is that the wish is reflecting back onto Bear of what his idea of romantic love is. So yeah, you can string those two together and boom. But that's just a theory. A film theory. OMG. Also, the ending was done so well. You can tell this movie is a Patience fan. Like, what a finale that she uses her one wish and that Bear OD'd just as she was about to pull the trigger and then she snaps out of it. In saying that the movie has stuck with me for various reasons. Again, with Bear, I did empathize with him at the start, but where that innocence, insecurity, or ignorance became just straight up neglect and self-preservation, I'm like, I'm out. And with how the movie portrays traditional heterosexual relationships and societal gender norms, standards, and expectations, I realized that I still do need to keep on deconstructing mine. I'm still affected by it, even though I don't personally align with that status quo myself. And especially with how femininity gets demonized in favor of men or masculinity, where it's reflecting back onto me, where I keep on not necessarily excusing a man's behavior, but internalizing how a woman should emotionally react and how it's viewed by society. Let's just say I'm starting to understand why my mom crashes out sometimes. I found out what a bird was the other day. Apparently it's used to call a woman who's male-centered, and I'm not saying that I am, but I know I'm not hating on men as hard enough as I can, and the expression of them. But hey, if I am male-centered, at least may I center myself with men who honestly love and appreciate women. And my guy friends can say that it's the bare minimum, because it honestly is, but apparently not to the rest of your brethren, so big shout out to guys that love women. Oh, and Ethan also said that I kind of remind him of Sarah, and with like my winged eyeliner and my nose piercing, I can kind of see it. What was it? I was to your left. Anyways, please like and subscribe. Really helps out the channel. Okay, cool. Thank you.